Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good, my dear friends. Today is 21st of February 2020. Day is Friday. We have one editorial. It's called Trump Cards. It's about India and, of course, USA. Now, we have talked about India and USA in recent past as well, but we have some new items here. But before that, I would like to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses, which are available for various different exams. As you can see on your screen, dear friends, do check out StudyIQ.com to find out more about our pen drive and tablet courses. I would like to add one thing here, that our pen drive and tablet courses are designed by best faculties of our nation, and with the help of our pen drive and tablet courses, there are thousands of students who have cracked various different competitive exams. To download the PDF of today's lecture, you have two sources. Please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. Hit the like button if you have learned something from today's discussion, and please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, dear friends, in recent past we have talked about India and USA, so I'm sure you are aware about, if I tell you big picture, right? Let's talk about some big things. Let's revise quickly. I'm going to be very quick and brief here. So you know this strategic relationship between India and USA. When I say strategic, I'm talking about let's say China, the rise of China and how China can be controlled by a sort of joint cooperation between like-minded countries. Then we have talked about democracies, like these two countries are democracies. We have talked about Indo-Pacific region as well, defense deal, trade deal, people-to-people contact, our NRIs, right, the nuclear deal. There are so many things that we have discussed in a recent past. Today we have some new points, some important aspects. Any high-level visit, particularly that of a USA president to India, is as much about the optics as it is about the outcomes. So we should not limit ourselves with the results. Like, say, for example, trade deal. Now, Mr. Trump has clearly said that trade deal is not going to take place this time during this visit. Early on, we were talking about, or it was expected that both nations will have a limited trade deal, a small one, a baby step or a first step. But this is not going to take place because both nations have agreed that they need to give more time. There are various different issues between both nations as far as trade is concerned. So they want to sort it out first. And then later on, Mr. Trump has said that before November 2020, before election, USA will have a big trade deal with India. So that's what he has said. So as his arrival is, coming closer, we are getting, things are getting more and more clear. You can say that. Now we'll come to this optics in a minute, but let's understand this thing that in last 8 months, this meeting will be the fifth between these two leaders. So this indicates that things are quite positive between these two countries. See, as I told you, these two countries, right, they have good relationship, good trade relationship, people-to-people contact and things like so. It's not that 100% things are positive. You have 70-75% things are positive. On 20-25% things are not that positive. You have some issues as well. But generally speaking, overall relationship is positive. And these two leaders, they get along with each other very well as well. So that's a good sign too. I was talking about this optics and outcomes. Now, optics have always been, particularly after Mr. Narendra Modi's rise to prime ministership, things have been positive at international front. Remember this scenario where both these leaders, they were having a very informal, observe the environment here, right? Both leaders are having a coffee and tea. They are alone. When I say alone, I mean to say they are in company with each other, and you don't find any other people around them, right? These pictures and photographs are taken from a very long distance. So this sort of discussion or this sort of meeting is very informal. They can talk about so many things. These things will not get recorded. You don't have to write it down or record it. Now they can have a pure informal chat. They can be free, and they can speak what is there in their mind. So This sort of things have taken place as well, and we have this sort of setups as well, where leaders will have a very formal conversation. So, and both these leaders, Mr. Modi and Mr. Trump, they get along with each other very well. So it's not just about Obama and Modi here. You should take it as India and USA. We whenever we meet, when I say we, I mean to say whenever our leaders meet, they have both formal as well as informal conversation, and that's a good thing. That's not bad at all. So it's more about optics as well. You want to send a positive signal to various different countries, like say for example Pakistan, for example China. When Mr. Trump and Mr. Modi, when they are shaking hands, when they are exchanging hugs, so it is basically sending a clear message to all these countries, Malaysia, then Turkey, Pakistan, China, etc. Right? As far as defense cooperation and purchases are concerned, it is clear now that India is going to purchase items worth $3 billion for its Navy, Army and Air Force. And if you look at it from this perspective, then India is a very big and important client of USA's defense product. This latest meeting will spur the bilateral relationship towards broader outcomes, with expectations centered at bilateral strategic ties, trade and energy relations. We are going to purchase more oil from USA to balance this imbalance that we have in bilateral trade. It's tilted towards India. So USA wants us to purchase more from USA. So India is going to purchase more oil. And India's regional environment. When I say regional environment, we are talking about this Indian Ocean region. Indo-Pacific region is also important for both nations. We are part of this quad team, quadrilateral. You have US, India, then you have Australia, Japan, and here you can see USA. So this 4 countries are part of this quad. And Indo-Pacific region is important for India as well as USA because rise of China. Yesterday we were talking about South China Sea and 9-dash line. So, and you know it very well how China is creating ports and building infrastructure in various different parts of this Indian Ocean. And USA is also present here. This Diego Garcia Island. USA is here. So, Indo-Pacific is important for India, because India is a very important player of Indian Ocean region and Pacific Ocean. Directly, USA is sharing its border with Pacific Ocean, and India and this China is available here as well, and it is increasing its footprint in this part as well. So to control it, both nations should work together. And there are other threats as well, like piracy is there, terrorism and other things. These are strategic topics. Then you have Afghanistan on table as well. Afghanistan. Yesterday I asked you a question about Afghanistan. Most of you have provided your answer, so that's a good thing. See, this is how I will nudge you to look at various different maps, to do a little bit of research. That's what I will do. I will nudge you. I will not spoon feed you with questions, answers. I will give you questions. I'll throw questions at you so that you can do a little bit of research. And then this way, your curiosity as well as your research abilities will improve as well. So Afghanistan is going to be important because USA is going to have a deal next week with the Taliban. Now, India is a country. India will not engage with Taliban. India does not talk with terrorist organizations and groups. But USA's deal with Taliban will impact India's foreign policy or its relationship with Afghanistan. What will be the role of India in Afghanistan after this USA-Taliban deal? What will happen when USA will step out of Afghanistan? Because India has heavily invested in this relationship that it shares with Afghanistan. We have built dams over there, a parliament building, libraries. Our personnel are working there and training officers, nurses, hospital staffs of Afghanistan. So we are going to talk about Afghanistan. So this is going to be important one. Then yesterday we were talking about this 7 million. Remember 7 million. Now this is not a figure that was provided by me. This is the figure that you find in yesterday's newspapers or day before yesterday's newspapers and articles, because Mr. Trump was talking about 7 million. He said that he's going to Means he will be, means 7 million or 70 lakh people will be there in this rally, road rally in Ahmedabad, Motera Stadium. But the latest means it was quite discussed, and there was a bit of controversy as well. Like the fact and figure is wrong, but what we are getting, the latest figure is that 1.25 lakh people are going to be present here in this Ahmedabad's Motera Cricket Stadium. And this will help. This 1.25 lakh is again not a small figure. So this will help create a positive image of Mr. Trump in USA. Now you'd be thinking how? Like, see, Gujarati people are, in USA you find lots and lots of them. So they are very, I would say, means highly, they are doing well over there in terms of education. In terms of money as well, right? After Jew community, Indian community is second richest migrant community in USA, and they are quite politically active too. So it will win hearts and minds, and it will create a positive image of Mr. Trump in all those NRIs living in, most of the NRIs living in USA. And it will help Mr. Modi as well to fetch some brownie points, political points, of course. So that's basically everything. I hope things are clear to you. Now let's talk about another important topic, art of life. Now this art is not that art. It is a short form of assisted reproductive techniques, that is ART bill. Union Cabinet has okayed this bill. And together we have this 4 bills, ART bill, then you have surrogacy bill, medical termination of pregnancy act, and preconception and prenatal diagnostic techniques act. So these 4 bills together, or these 4 acts and bills together, they present a bouquet of legislation that will have a positive impact on the reproductive rights and choices of women in our country, and that's a very good thing, of course. Now, ART measures help couples. ART is basically assisted reproductive techniques. So this ART measures help couples unable to conceive naturally to bear children with the aid of a state-of-the-art technology to achieve pregnancy leading to safe delivery. This concept is not new, but in recent past we see that it is getting common. When I say not new, I mean to say earlier on people used to feel a bit shy to discuss about these things, and it was all, pardon me if I'm wrong, but it was more about, religious thing. Like people used to believe that, our home remedies as well as, religion, vows and other things will help a couple conceive a child. But now we know that we have another option, that is technology, and we are not bit new to this thing. Back in 1970s, only months after the birth of Louis Brown, the first test tube baby, Kolkata-based Dr. Subhas Mukherjee announced the birth of world's second test tube baby. We are talking about 70, so nearly 45 years ago. And recent past we saw this film Vicky Donor, Good News as well. So these 2 films are quite famous. We have other films as well. If you go through Indian cinema, then you find films on surrogacy and this sort of things. But anyway, awareness is it's reasonably quite wide nowadays, and even in big centers, big cities, you find big hoardings of IVF centers. So this thing is getting quite common, and I was wondering, like, India is a country known for its high population, and it's quite strange to know that means infertility is something, it's getting bigger, and like rates are going up in our country. As far as this Fortune Business Insights projection is concerned, the size of art market is expected to reach $45 billion by 2026. Among Asian countries, India's art market is pegged at 3rd position. A lack of regulation and consequent laxity created lots and lots of problems for various different ladies and couples. Like they used to take illegal routes, things were executed in informal as well as unsafe environment, but with the help of all these laws and bills, things are improving. So Let us understand these four important points of this art bill, the changes that it will introduce. A. It seeks to regulate and monitor art procedures. It will make it a bit more formal as well as standardized. B. Mandates the establishment of a national board as well as state boards to lay down rules for implementation. So we'll have a national board, and then we'll have one state board in every state and of course in union territories, so that all these rules and regulations are implemented properly. It will create national registry and registration authority, and it will recommend punishments as well if this sex identification and all these things will take place. Then it will lead to jail terms as well. So the bill is its best chance to eliminate exploitation in this field, and it's right time now that we sync surrogacy with art, so that we can have more. You can say we can create that environment that is beneficial for couples, and of course in a very ethical way, as well as it is not exploiting the ladies of our country. Then we have gearing up. This one, gearing up to fight the next big viral outbreak. As you can see from here, this picture, it's about coronavirus. So if we go through this World Health Organization's Global Health Security Index, we find that India is ill prepared to deal with new strains of coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 that is causing worldwide panic. Now remember, this is a very important information here. You can find a question in your prelims examination like Global Health Security Index is released by, and you'll find options, various different options, confusing options. So remember, it is World Health Organization. You can also find a match the following type of A and B type of thing, where you find a WHO, you find names of organization like IMF, World Bank, etc. And then you will get all this index or name of the reports that have been covered by this or released and prepared by this organization. So whenever you read or come across this sort of information, make sure that you pay a little bit attention and note it down. Like, this is important, right? You find this type of questions because prelims are not that far from you now. Now, this World Health Organization's Global Health Security Index covers 6 categories. As you can see on your screen, one is prevention, second one early detection, rapid response, health system quality, standards, and risk environment. It assesses 195 countries. Global average is 40.2 out of 100. India's score is 46.5, which is not that impressive. As far as world ranking is concerned, USA is at the top of the pyramid. China is 51st, and Thailand is doing great. Thailand is ranked 6th in Health Security Index, the highest ranking for an Asian country. Why? We are going to talk about it. But first of all, let's understand this 4-point health agenda, immediate and long-term actions that are required for our country and that are required for other countries as well who are not doing that great. Early detection and prevention, one of the most important thing. You might have heard about this quote as well, that prevention is better than cure. So it is important that we stay alert, particularly when we have this sort of a change in season, or when you have this sort of epidemics taking place in different parts of the world. Because nowadays we have this transportation facilities and all these things. It means things can go global. This sort of epidemics can go global in a snap. So early detection as well as prevention, one of the most important things. Second, better collaboration across health service providers, public as well as private. If something is not right, then we should have a sync between this public and private health. And it's not just about, when I say health service providers, it's not just about domestic providers, right? In today's world, it is very easy to collaborate with international organizations and other neighboring countries when it comes to collaboration between these health service providers. Then more investment in health systems, outcomes and education, of course, very logical to understand, and better quality of environment and biodiversity, which directly affects people's health and safety. And this is right as well. Now we are going to talk about this coronavirus. Why we have to care about our biodiversity and environment. We'll talk about it at the end of this discussion. But before that, I would like to take you through some other important points. Now, coming back to Thailand, when the deadly Middle East respiratory syndrome caused havoc in 2015, Thailand quickly notified the WHO of its first confirmed case and acted transparently to arrest the spread. Transparency, alert system, ready to work, right? Ready to learn things. All these things played a very important role, and this is one of the main reasons why Thailand is one of the best when it comes to Asian countries. The influenza A H1N1 outbreak since 2006 in Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and other states have actually underscored the need for better detection, awareness of symptoms, and quarantining. The Pune-based National Institute of Virology has been designated as a WHO H5 reference laboratory. We have these facilities, but still there are big valleys, I would say, not gaps, but there are big valleys when it comes to implementation. What we need now is in each and every state, we should have this sort of centers, right? WHO reference laboratories and important centers where we can test viruses and where we can also conduct regular stress tests like mock drills, so that we can every few months or twice a year we can do these things so that we can, in case if something goes wrong in future, we know exactly what to do. We have this SOPs designed, standard operating procedures. We have adequate supply of equipments, health facilities, hygiene practices, prevention, treatment protocols, all these things. You cannot do it all of the sudden. If you are practicing it, then things will be easier for you. And the big problem nowadays is that we have various different types of this sort of viruses taking place, right? This coronavirus is altogether a new thing. So in future, we may find ourselves in a situation where we are dealing with a virus or a pathogen about which we know very little about. Partnerships between private and public sector, we have already covered this point and discussed about it. And there could be an emergency loan facility. This is a very interesting point. When natural disasters takes place, right? World Bank provides a loan facility, emergency loan facility. Deferred drawdown option is available. So same thing should be available for this sort of epidemics as well. And this article is talking about one of the best defense that we can do is its health and education. Nothing can beat these two things. If we have this thing in combo, then that's the best defense, right? Prevention is better than cure. So if we have a healthy lifestyle in our country, if people are generally speaking, if they are living a very healthy life in our country, we have this big problem of pan spitting, these people chewing tobacco and khaini and pan masalas and other things, and they spit quite openly. Not in metros, but in metros as well. You find this sort of people in our country. It's quite common thing, but we need to get rid of it because tuberculosis and there are so many diseases. They are affecting people or they are spreading because of this sort of bad habits, and it is so common that we hardly notice these things nowadays. Then you have one more problem that I observe most of the time whenever you go out, even in good restaurants as well. You find there is a wash basin, but there is no soap over there to wash your hands. And I have also observed this very strange thing that people, they wash their hands after a meal, which is quite logical and it's necessary as well, but not before their meal. And this is quite sad. Like you are eating food with dirty hands. Normally we Indians, we prefer to eat using our hands. So it is very important that we have this sort of basic hygiene standards. Education plays a very important role in spreading the message, in spreading awareness, in our habits and all these things. And we are spending very less when it comes to health, 1.5% of our GDP. According to WHO, this is a very important fact, India has only 80 doctors per 1 lakh people. An HSBC study of 67 countries ranks India as the most climate vulnerable one because of its impact of severe temperature increases and decline in rainfall. So in future, we may encounter this sort of diseases, new viruses, new pathogens, and 2/3 of known pathogens and 3/4 of newly emerging pathogens are spread from animals to humans. And this is the reason why I said that this point here, better care of the environment and biodiversity, which directly affects people's health and safety, because this new and old pathogens, right, most of the new ones are emerging from this animal and human beings contact, and we are encroaching in animal world, destroying forests and other things. So we have to look after our biodiversity as well. Then you have two easy to understand articles. One is Advantage Hardliners. It's about the politics of Iran. I'm going to be very brief here, and you have to understand this thing, because normally we don't discuss politics of other countries, but here Iran's politics plays or it will affect our country. How? Let me tell you. But before that, you have to understand what's going on in Iran. See, at present you have a regime or government of Hassan Rouhani. Now, if you compare Hassan Rouhani's regime with Ahmadinejad's government, then Ahmadinejad, who is the previous president of this country, Iran, his government was hardliner, very aggressive, anti-West, ready to explore nuclear weapons. But Hassan Rouhani's regime is quite, you can say, progressive, and it is under his regime, this countries, they had this Iran nuclear deal. But then later on, we saw Mr. Trump coming in as a president, and he rejected this deal. And since then, we have new troubles. Now, if we go through last 4 or 5 months, we find that things are not going very well in Iran. That this turmoil, social turmoil, because things are getting more and more expensive because of this sanctions, USA's strict sanctions on on Iran. So petrol prices, medicine, food, everything is quite high. Inflation is skyrocketing in Iran. So people were out on streets. Then you had this death of Qasem Soleimani. Then Ukraine International Airlines flight was shot down by Iran. So all these incidents, they have created a sort of anti-regime, this anti-Hassan Rouhani regime environment, and most of the people, youngsters, are not ready to vote as well. They don't trust the system. They are not happy with the system. So hardliners, those who are are calling for taking severe actions against West and taking revenge and all these things, this regime may win, and there are high chances. Like means people are now, one option is not working very well, so you have next option, and that is a tough option. So people may vote for that, and this will create more troubles, and it can disrupt oil supply, and then this oil supply disruption can create problems for our economy and for our society too. So this is basically everything about this article. Now let's talk about this one. You find this opinion, remember this, what distinguishes welfare measures from freebies. So you have opinions of two various different writers. So here they are talking about this. The question is difference between welfare measures and freebies. Like it's talking about this Delhi election and results. So Kejriwal government provided this free bus facilities, for transportation facilities for the ladies lot of Delhi, and other things were free. So are those things or these steps, can we call them freebies? The answer is it all depends. Like healthcare and education are basically the functions of the government. We cannot have our own roads, right? We cannot have our own schools where our kids can go. So these are the things that government should do. So if government is providing healthcare, free education, then this is something that we need. But what we need more is we need good quality, best quality things. So if government is providing all these things, basic things as well, then it's not freebie, it is welfare measure, of course. Public goods or services like sewage, drinking water, we cannot have our own gutter, we cannot have our own electricity production plant and then we distribute it. Public transport, we cannot have our own. So we need these are the things that government should do for everyone, right? They should be equal for everyone. So these are not freebies. Now in some states, it means if you are looking from Gujarat or maybe some other states, if you this cycles are given to some school going girls in Uttar Pradesh. So those are not freebies. We have to analyze it, evaluate on case by case basis, because in some districts, in some towns, connectivity is not that good. So even if you provide just a cycle, basic bicycle worth 3,000 4,000 rupees to a small girl, then that cycle will help her and motivate, and it will create that sense of security that she can easily, go back and forth from school and home. So these are the things, like from distance it looks freebie, but you have to take so many things into consideration. Like in South India, in Tamil Nadu, you have these amma canteens where people can eat for 5 rupees, for 10 rupees. Like over there, people need those things, so we cannot say freebie. So it all depends. It all depends on different areas. So that's basically everything about this. So it depends. You have to evaluate case by case. You cannot generalize things in a diverse country like India when it comes to this sort of welfare measures and freebies. And then you have these news items. Of course, dear friends, it won't be a trouble for you guys to find these news items and go through it. CAA, it was discussed by US panel. So this has been rejected by India. 19 killed because of bus accident. Very sad. A shooter has killed 9 in Germany, which is again a very sad thing. Supreme Court interlocutors examine alternative routes. Nirbhaya case, convict claims mental illness. 2 Dalits tortured in Rajasthan. And then you have CGI alarmed at this hasty death. Foreign army is happy about this. Permanent commission for women officer. 28 anti-CAA protesters, they have to pay 64 lakh rupees. And a notice has been issued, and New Delhi to send medical supplies to via aircraft to China, and historic pact with USA will be signed soon, has been said by Taliban. And that's everything in today's discussion. I have a question for you guys. Give me the name of those nations with which USA is sharing its land boundary. And this is your first question. Second question is, we have this different lines, imaginary lines, of course. Tropic of Equator, Cancer, Capricorn, Arctic Circle. So can you give me, is there any line that is passing from USA? And if yes, then give me the name of that line. So that's everything in today's discussion. Thank you very much for watching this video. God bless you all. Jai Hind.